is our intro song. This is the intro. The audio's working. First we're enjoying this song. Chris Schwarzwalder. Chrissy. Cheers.
Okay, I think we're about to start this. Hi everyone out there who's listening or watching tonight.
Hello, family.
Thank you for tuning in. This is the brand new Holzmarkt Culture stream, and this is the world premiere of Die Kontaktperson.
Which we're doing in English on my account. Thanks.
Yeah, fair enough. That's okay. I'm trying my very best, but please, people, don't be mad at me if I'm throwing in a German sentence.
We can switch
here and
to
there.
German once in a while.
Yeah, okay, nice. So yeah, my name is Konstantin. My guest or my partner tonight is Jake, aka Jake the Rapper. And just to give you guys a little introduction, a little background about the idea of this stream and about this show that we're doing tonight, I'm just going to say something before we start. So I don't know how many of you out there know, but Holzmarkt is closed for 24 days today. And the club
This is the 24th day.
This is the 24th day, correct. The club is closed, so there is no life anymore. There is no business as usual, no nothing. And I mean, this is nothing special these days, but for us that means the whole idea of having a cultural marketplace is gone. Like, you can't do it anymore. It doesn't exist. Yeah. And we thought, how can we keep on producing cultural content? What can we do to stay alive ourselves and like kind of make a difference, helping in times of the crisis and in times of social distancing? How can you stay creative and keep doing what you love to do and what we're all here for? And still paying respect at the same time to the situation that we're in, because we do respect all the measures and all the, it's important. The social distancing, there's no way around it. I think we all agree on that. So yeah, how can you cope with such a situation? So streaming, I think everyone knows, has become quite a thing these days. But unfortunately with streaming, you cannot, I mean, let's be honest, you cannot get everything that you want. It's just half the experience, maybe even less. And there are so many things that you cannot send digitally. Plus, the streaming that we are seeing lately is very much DJ focused, which is great. And there are good reasons for this. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it today later on. But then still there's such a big world behind it. And if you take Holzmarkt, for instance, there are so many stories to tell. And especially in the days of crisis, of how people just keep on doing what they love and how people struggle and how these places struggle. And that these are things that we want to talk about and why we founded this stream. And then I thought, okay, I have never done something like this before. I have to say that quite honest. And I thought, okay, why? I know so many great people, great artists, and I would love to share ideas with them and share thoughts and share their opinion about the situation. And then also I love meeting my friends and having an excuse to drink beer with them. So that's what we're doing tonight, and I hope you guys can enjoy that. Yeah, so here we are for a little distant socializing together. Yeah, so Jake, let's start this. So I think a lot of people do know you. But
probably
still,
a lot of people that are tuning in right now. But
yeah, we'll see though. But then still, there are a lot of people out there who don't know you. So I'm going to, like, before we start getting into the dialogue, I'm going to ask you some questions. Just tell us. Just tell us a little bit about you. Like, what made you come to Germany? When was that? what were the professions that you were having?
Oh God!
And what brought you here?
I don't want to go too far into my whole life story because, I'd like to talk about some of the more current things that are happening. But I came in 1990. It was the first Gulf War, the first original Bush Senior, and America was going to war for oil, which they denied at the time. And in retrospect, especially with everything that's happened since then. It's hard to believe that not everybody was aware what was happening, but I was at least aware that this, that wasn't really a democracy that we're dealing with in America, and it wasn't a democratic decision to go to war. And so I decided to distance myself from that, and looked around, and I happened to find a guy in Germany who said, "Hey, you want to come visit me?" And so I studied art here, and was making art and music, and then started doing electronic music, and decided to move to Berlin, and then became a DJ with the Bar 25.
Which year was that you moved?
2005. So I was in Hamburg for 15 years, and then Berlin this last 15 years. And so the Bar 25 was really the sort of the seminal moment for me of becoming a DJ, and which is the original incarnation of Holzmarkt, which was Bar 25, and then Kater Holzig across the water, and then back here. So I've known all you guys for a long time, and my main career has been DJing for the last at least 10 years.
When did we first meet? Do you remember that?
No. you were being a Ladenleiter. What do you call that?
Yeah, no, I was being a runner. I was a runner back then, and then I started bartending at some point, and then but maybe we met a little later. I'm not even quite sure. Oh. I mean, probably around 2013-ish. Yeah. Something like that. I mean, it was still over in Kater, I'm sure. Yeah, that's right. About that.
Yeah, we should talk about runners and stuff too.
Yeah, we do that. Let's definitely do this. Okay, so what else can I mean, one thing I really need to ask you is, I don't know, because you're one of the very few persons whose social media feed I really admire and keep on looking at, which is really rare for me these days. So what made you turn into this meme thing that you're very famous for? Like, I don't even know when it started. I just remember when it started. Well, I was like, okay, is this going to be his new thing? And then it was like, at some point I just recognized, okay, it's serious. Like, there's no joke about it anymore.
It's actually, it was more of a return to something, because before I was DJing, I was doing I was a graphic designer for BMW.com, and on my free time, I was spending a lot of time on this London-based website called b3ta.com. Okay. And we were creating basically memes. I'm not even sure we had the name yet, but we were creating content for people to, back then there was no Facebook, so you would send these things.
Which year are we
emails,
talking about?
I just looked, and I think I'm celebrating my 20th anniversary on that, so it was like 20 years ago, or 19 years ago. Yeah. And I would be creating this sort of, GIFs and basically what memes are, but with a lot more work. There's a lot more attention to detail into Photoshop. And they would get sent around however was possible, emails or newsletters and things. And so I did that for a number of years, and then I kind of gave that up to become a DJ. And then this friend of mine actually got me a little blue check for Instagram, and I felt like I needed to then get into Instagram because I wasn't into it. And I tried to go the way of all these, Instagram influencers and, DJs who show them their gigging and all their other gigs and all the places they are, and them at the airport and all these things, and it just didn't feel right to me. Yeah. Some people are very good at that, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, one of the people that I admire the most, and I've told her that embarrassingly enough, is Mira. I really like the way that she somehow is humble and yet brings you along on her story. So she's constantly updating her Insta story without it being some kind of this influencer thing. Yeah. So I don't want to go into too much detail there, but basically, I tried to do that and realized I can't do that. That's just not me. That's not. It either comes across as too braggadocious when I'm, this is my feet on my thing, or or just why would people care about where I'm exactly? I don't know. I'm either too egotistical or too shy. Yeah. So I was like, oh, memes, back to the memes kind of, and then it really just started to snowball, and now.
Yeah, but that's quite a good explanation, though. It's way better than I thought it could be.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, all right. I think that's just what I wanted to have to like introduce you to the people who don't know you, and now let's move on to the to the main topic. So.
Coronavirus.
Yeah, the coronavirus. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
As Bernie would put it. And so what was your penny dropping moment? What was your aha effect? When was it, and how was it that you realized, okay, this shit is real, is going to affect my life as an artist, as a person, and my family, and like the whole story?
I mean, it's been pretty gradual, I think. But I remember that I was supposed to play a gig, I think on the 15th of March, and I was already thinking this is not a good idea.
That was but where would that have been?
That was in Ritterbutzke.
In Berlin. Okay.
In Berlin, yeah. And a lot of gigs were already canceled. Our gig wasn't canceled. I was starting to get a lot of flack on the internet. People saying you don't go to play that, and I was like, well, it's a situation where I know that the promoter is a friend of mine, this promoter friend of mine, he really, he's already desperate. Like, he was where we're going to be in 2 months was already there. And I felt like I didn't want to be the one to go, hey, we shouldn't do this. It ended up being Ritterbutzke. And I still regret that he wasn't able to recoup all that money that he invested in that. And I think it might have just broken my, that's when things started to crumble. I saw for others, and then also the intensity of this sort of this separating, this distancing, and then we were in quarantine a couple of days later. So it wasn't, I guess, late. I guess the answer is maybe late. I saw it coming, but it's all been so gradual and sort of surreal.
Yeah,
then
definitely. But you said you were in quarantine, but you mean like self-quarantine?
Self-quarantine.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay,
not real.
No,
I never went to... Oh, you know what it was? And then another thing was two other DJs I knew. They were like... One Harris, who was doing... who was my trainer in John Reed. MC Harris, and he was I can't come because I was DJing in a club, and that was one sick person there. And now we're quarantined. What happened to you guys, too? It was all over the news. My wife was saying, is that really good press for them? Like, having 19 people got infected. And
no one knows, by the way. That's the thing about it,
who it was. Or
no, you can't even, because you can't trace it back. You don't even know if the persons who got it after visiting the club got it there, or got it before, or got it after.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like, then the media is making a story out of it, and the basic facts are so uncertain.
Well, we're getting all of our facts from
which is crazy.
The internet, and that's like surfing this thing of like, it's so easy to, after you go, okay, sure, I won't go outside for a few days, and then it's easy to get caught up into all sorts of conspiracy theories and reasons why the government's taking over.
I wouldn't call this a conspiracy theory, by the way, but I get your point, though. I just think that, like, in this case, it was a serious thing for sure, but I just think that the way media is dealing with like these individual super spreading events, like they call it, is I see that pretty critical, because I think it's hard to like blame individual people or spaces when you now have the knowledge of how things developed, and then blaming people for making decisions 2 weeks before, you know, and that's a really.
So you were also thinking that Holzmarkt, or rather Blockade Blau, got too much flack for.
Yeah, I think it wasn't that bad. I wouldn't even say that, but it's just it's a tough thing to deal with, because on the other hand, of course, you have. You need to take responsibility. That's for sure.
Well, it's a slow realization. It's a constant re-realization. Every day, every morning, you get up and you go, this combination of total relief in a way, because like all of the stress that you had trying to realize yourself and realize your life is all of a sudden broken down, and you're on this strange vacation on the one hand. On the other hand, you have this existential dread, like, how am I going to, continue what I was doing? How am I going to pay the rent? What's going to happen? I'm 50, I'm almost 50, and I have a COPD, and that's a big high risk, so I really can't get this. So on the one hand, there's a mixture of paranoia, and then also like this almost occasionally, so it's this roller coaster of, I feel like, for me at least, of either paranoia and dread and, fear.
Yeah.
Try to keep that a little bit in check, or to the sort of elated, like, oh my God, this is so zen. It's like this, it's like a meditation retreat or something. I just can, I have 2 kids, so there's not like a lot of just doing nothing, but it's still, you get up and you go, okay, it's time to feed the kids, and that's all I've got to do,
Yeah.
So,
you're doing homeschooling?
Yeah, I'm doing homeschooling, yeah. That's, actually, my wife's doing more of the homeschooling than I am. I'm taking care of the little one while she does the homeschooling, and I do not envy her as much as I love my daughter. It's just that you shouldn't be teaching your own kids, that's all. It's not her fault. It's just, you should, it's just teaching her.
Yeah, no one should.
It's just, that's the reason why we have teachers
unless
and schools.
You want them not to know, you want them to know how God created the world, and, like the public school system is
right. If you're
brainwashing
if you're
them.
Fanatical, yeah. Exactly. But otherwise, it's a good reason why you have strangers teach your kids and not here.
Okay. But what would you... So you said... Because this is something I feel too, is like when I wake up, it's almost every morning still, even though it's now, 3 weeks or so, that we all are in this very deep, and that we all know how serious it is that there is this moment of realization of the situation. And because, like,
which
you
is
wake
so dichotomous,
up,
it's split. It's a mixture of, I feel like, depression and elation, kind of.
It's
you don't know which way to go with your feelings.
It's super weird. But what would you personally say for your life now? What is the biggest challenge, but what is also, on the other hand, the biggest benefit, if there is one?
Yeah, it's hard to talk about benefits when people are really dying and stuff. You have to be very grateful that I have a family that I love and that loves me, and we have a very healthy family unit. So it's not hard to spend all these days together. It's really it's a joy, and that I'm healthy and we're all healthy. So I got to be grateful for that, and also be grateful for the Germans being quite chill about everything. Relatively, and also supporting me, with the IBB and everything. So everything is great there. So it's hard for me to say what's the benefits of, but there are. I feel like there are benefits. I wanted to go to a retreat, a Vipassana retreat, and I didn't get to go there. I was very disappointed, but I feel like it's to a small amount. It's a little bit like that the whole time, because I just have this, I can't do my gigs, and I can't, I just have to, like I said, it's this mixture of trying to, like this pressure of realizing your true potential, and at the same time not really having any time frame for that, so being completely relaxed at the same time.
Oh yeah, that's exactly one thing that I feel so much, is that a lot of people around me are, saying, this is the time to like find your true self,
like a reset button.
Like the reset button, or getting spiritual, or even religious, or whatever that might be. But it's this whole idea of like focusing on your true inner self. And I'm like, no, fuck it. Like there is no such thing. And I'm not even now having time for it, which I know it's also stupid to say that, but I kind of like don't want to get into that, or to accept the situation that it is, and to, in a way, keep on doing what I love, and not like, like rethinking my entire life, because some people tell me that I have to now. But then also,
it might be a little different. You're still working, whereas if you're like, say, a DJ and you're just home now all the time and you have no gigs,
of course,
and you don't have no gigs in your calendar, at least the one they keep disappearing. You're like, are we playing that gig? Is that festival happening? No. And you're like, so what am I here for? What do I do? So it's a little different, but I understand what you mean. There's no true self. You are who you are day to day. So that
I'm afraid that's true.
You can do, you can do a certain amount of soul searching and discovering, which I feel like I'm doing. But you don't want to go overboard either. And
but would you say you have more time? Do you feel, or that someone?
No, I don't have more time because of the kids and everything. I have less time actually, because
that's my feeling,
the kids are home. Yeah. Whereas during the school time was the time I could do work. So I have no time to work. I have less time, but I have less pressure at the same time, which allows me to see things less cluttered in a way. So it's like my brain is always stacking up all these. I could do this. I could do that. What should I do? And I should be in the studio. Could all this pressure and things. It's kind of, the pressure seems gone a bit.
Yeah. On the one hand, I see your point, but then my problem,
which it should always be gone. Actually.
But you know what? For me there is a very good maßstab for how busy my life is, and that's the amount of tabs I have open in my browser.
And you have more now.
I think I have more than ever.
Wow, okay, I have way less.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then because what happens to me is I have this, I think in my life, I'm better than ever at this point to not face this fear of missing out things that are going on, whatever that might be. But now it's like I hear, okay, that this and that museum opens its doors virtually. You can go visit MoMA, or you can, all of the stuff that's going on now with the live streaming. And then you can visit or you can participate in online courses from great universities worldwide. Like Yale and Harvard are giving you online lectures, and I'm like, fuck, that's fucking great. And so I open all of these tabs, and I'm like, I have to do this. And I feel like, but then it's at the same time, I still have a job, and I still, then you want to do the stuff that you just kind of feel like you need to do. You need to clean up your apartment. You need to do all these things. So I can't even say that that this pressure is less than before. But on the other hand, I think it's also a point that you brought up before, is that I think, like, why am I feel even stupid talking about this now for 5 minutes, because I'm like, there's people out there suffering with or without the fucking virus.
That was my preface. Yeah, I mean,
and what are we
economically as well? And
and what are we like?
The virus is just the first wave. The economic crisis afterwards is coming.
Oh yeah,
that's a tsunami. I mean, yeah. So I don't want to be glib and be like, oh, self-realization and everything's wonderful, because that's obviously there's a whole lot going on right now.
Yeah.
But maybe I could bring up the subject of DJs live streaming.
Yeah, let's switch over to that. I mean,
just because that can come from. I feel like it comes. I want to make sure to also preface that with a positive thing. There's been people have been making fun of it in the internet and saying, "Oh God, stop the live streaming." This has been kind of first people are like, "Cool," and then people are like, "Oh, too much of that," and stop the DJs from live streaming. I even posted a meme about it. But I think that it can come from a lot of different places. It could come from boredom. It could come from desperation, the wanting to keep your celebrity going or wanting to stay relevant. But it can also come from just like,
you have to stay relevant.
You have to stay relevant. Yeah, but the way you do the live stream can be. I feel like a lot of people aren't realizing that they don't have an audience, and they think that they can continue exactly like they always did and play the same kind of set that they did in front of a live audience. And then it's kind of the emperor's new clothes. They're quite naked, standing there, and just maybe they didn't move around a lot. And then there's other DJs who are trying to move around a lot because they think, hey, I'm on TV and I have no audience, so I need to dance around a bit. And I don't want to criticize anybody for anything that they're doing. I'm just saying, it's like, so I don't think people should hoard toilet paper. People should not buy 200 rolls of toilet paper. But I'm not saying no one should wipe their ass anymore. I'm not saying stop shitting or something like that. So I'm not telling people stop live streaming. I don't want to make sure you're not saying that. Sure. I'm just saying, look at how you're live streaming. Is it out of desperation? Are you buying 200 rolls of toilet paper, or is it something that's coming from the heart? And how? And if you're expressing yourself, is it just 2 rolls? You're expressing yourself. Is it? Can you think, my audience is different now. Can I change, maybe talk over what you're doing or play a live instrument? Or I'm not saying people shouldn't connect and shouldn't communicate. I think it's important that people do that. But and I think that our music scene in general is something that I want held together, however possible, and also support the people the DJs and also the clubs who can't make it. I mean, I just heard that Renata made their first goal, which was like 23,000 euros.
The first funding goal.
So congratulations, that's fantastic, and I think that's great that can work.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying don't live stream and don't ask for donations and try to keep the scene alive, but I do see, for me, it was this moment where like the curtains fell before my eyes about the whole thing, what I do and everybody does a little bit, how it's become very celebrity oriented, very DJ oriented, and also people don't realize that the party involves everybody, the runners, the barmen, the producers that make the tracks and things. And so I feel like this is an opportunity for us to, the scene that I started in, it wasn't as celebrity-based, as Instagram-based, as, all these things that sort of drive and money. I mean, talking about like, Resident Advisor just signed with Spotify, And so things were getting a little bit out of hand before this happened. This might be an opportunity to just sort of take a new look at things and go, how do we, when this starts up again, how do we want to go from here? How would we like to do this a little differently?
Yeah,
because reconsidering certain aspects of our whole scene and why we get together and why we dance, why we play music, why we drink beers while we do that. You know what I mean? Why do we need a bartender? All of these things.
But let's get into more details on that later. But let me just.
Oh, am I jumping ahead?
No, don't worry. Let me just stay at the streaming itself for a while, because I find that pretty interesting, because, you know, like I have a lot of friends DJing and I see so many different approaches and so many different problems of facing the situation. I mean, like, I can't imagine, like, how does it feel to, like, go in the club and then you feel the pressure and you have to be ready on point.
I had a live streaming gig. It was canceled, and I was a very strong mixture of relieved and disappointed. You know, I mean, part of me was like, oh my God, and oh no, you know,
Sorry, maybe there is no one to, like, give you any sort of reaction. It's just empty space. I was witnessing the United We Stream version of Katerblau what was it, 2 weeks ago already, and it felt super weird. Like, I wasn't DJing, but just standing there and seeing it, I was like happy and sad at the same time. And
each person approached it differently. I feel some people, even some of my favorite DJs I've watched and thought, this is not that interesting. Other DJs I watched, I thought, they're doing it. I'm engaged.
Yeah.
Even without an audience. I was earlier, I was telling you my comparison, which you don't know, but there's Stephen Colbert has a late night show in America, and John Oliver does the Late Last Week Tonight. And they both had to do their shows from home. And I love Stephen Colbert, but he's been doing it from home, and it's just got this reeks of desperation and uncertainty because he doesn't have his audience. So he's like, making jokes, and is that the dog? And it's really awkward. And John Oliver is, because he's so fact-based, this news comedy. It just rolls, and he doesn't wait for laughter, fake, that's not there. And I mean, if you could compare the two side by side, you see what I mean. It's like they're doing the exact same thing, and one works with an audience and one doesn't.
Yeah, and now speaking of music, should we play the first track?
Oh yeah, okay. From me or for you?
Yeah, it's your turn now.
Okay,
tell me the story and the name of the track.
Is that the first track that you played before?
No, I mean like the track that you choose now.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and start with the one that you started in the little sound check there.
Tell me the name.
My Love for This Thing, which is a track I did with.
Yeah, got it.
This track called this is an unreleased track, very housey thing, where I'm talking about DJing for years and years and not always feeling it and kind of forgetting the magic, and then remembering the magic of why we actually DJ. And it's just sort of, you shift into this other dimension where everybody's sort of in that moment all together. And it's not you DJing anymore, it's everybody's in there. You're like, oh yeah, this is why I do this.
When was the last moment like this in your life? What would you say? Do you remember one?
I mean, I try to make it happen every time I DJ. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe like
Oh, I don't remember.
But there hasn't even got to be such thing. I don't know. I just thought maybe that's something that you think about now that you can't.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely start to appreciate. I appreciated it before, and I appreciate it even more being able to be part of that. Those moments, and even be able to initiate it, be the one that kind of puts the spark into the room and gets people to go like, yeah, wow, magic. But it's like you're a conduit. You're not the magician. In a way, you are. I guess you're the magician, but the whole spell is involving everybody, All
right. Yeah. Let's do this.
So this is me, and I got some help in the studio from Fred Bruno, who I share a studio with.
Great.
does get hard from week to week, year after year. So when I get in a club, a lot of times I'm not feeling it. Other people might not be feeling it. Everybody's trying to feel it. There's a lot of ways they're trying to feel it. And everybody's trying to get into the vibe, and I'm trying to get into the vibe. People are drinking and dancing and flirting. And we're having a good time, but then it just somehow shifts the level. And it's kind of like we opening up a window to another plane where everything has this magical feeling. And then it hits. You remember, oh yeah, this beautiful deep harmony. We're all there for a reason, we're all united in that. Everything just jives together, everything just makes sense. You know exactly why you are here right now, and you know this is exactly where you need to be right now.
Yeah, I was actually going to give this track to a label called Times Are Rough from Holland, from my friend Jason Sussman, and I wrote him again, and he's like, I'm not putting anything out right now. The label's on ice, you know, and like, I think it's happening to a lot. Times are rough.
All right, Jake. Last second. Okay. Yeah. Let's jump back into the question of how to deal with the streaming culture. I mean, obviously, there is no other way that I could think of continuing to create to create a cultural content for our culture, for like clubs in Berlin, for subculture in Berlin, other than streaming. So you brought some aspects of like how people could potentially deal with it, of giving it like not trying to pretend like it was a normal situation, as far as I got you.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on the person. You know, I mean, there's so many different ways to DJ, and there's so many different ways to live stream, I think, as well. Ones we haven't even explored. This could be a whole new, you know, like people could be exploring new ways to be doing this live stream, since now all of a sudden everybody's got the attention. Live streaming has been around for a decade, and people haven't live streamed because we haven't had to, you know. I mean, it's obviously inferior to having a room full of people. But I'm sure there's a lot of potential that we're not realizing. How can we communicate with a unseen, unnumbered amount of people with music? And dance, the thing is, dance music is very repetitive. It's very hypnotic in a way because you're all, pulling on the same sort of thread together and you're all in the same room. You're not in the same room, so I think it's immediately already difficult to play music that you would play in a club.
Absolutely. And then you also, that's one of my strongest feeling when I'm listening to the streams or seeing the streams is that I'm missing the sound of a real PA.
Right. So exactly. Thank you. The bass is missing. Yeah. I mean, some people can turn it up in their house, but most people probably aren't.
I mean, come on.
And then, and there's some magical, invisible thing that's missing. I mean, I feel sometimes, like I'm a DJing and it's like, this is these like tentacles where I'm touching people and they're touching me. I know that sounds really esoteric, but there's definitely something else happening besides just this amazing skills.
It's okay.
The amazing skills of me mixing one record together to with another, or me standing there smiling or whatever it is, or putting my hands up in the air. It's not that. It's I don't know if I need to describe what it is that makes DJing magic, but it's certainly very evident now that sometimes is missing, and I think that is I guess that would be my thing to say to people live streaming. Don't live stream, or definitely play different music that you don't want to play because you think you have to change it. Yeah. But just try to be more self-aware of like, am I communicating the magic that I do otherwise, and if not, why am I doing it? It's more like ask the question, why am I doing that, and how can I do it so that I feel like I'm communicating something worthwhile. It sounds really lectury and from a dad-like, but you know what I mean. It's like, where do we go from here? First of all, the live streaming could be explored more heavily, and second of all, like I was saying before, after this is over, reassessing our whole scene, the bubble that we had that was kind of collapsing before Corona happened. I talked to a lot of DJs at the end of last year who were like, I'm not getting the same amount of gigs I was getting before. Don't tell anybody, but I'm worried that I'm going to survive. And more and more clubs, more and more festivals, less local artists, less community things happening, and
But which is at the same time pretty interesting because I think for a lot of people that are looking onto the scene, and I would even count me in there. I rather have the feeling that things are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, which might not it's not ist vielleicht kein Widerspruch, but that's kind of like two different developments at the same time. And then one other thing I wanted to ask you is you brought up the, I think, super important aspect that right now the streaming is very DJ focused. And the ironic thing is that clubs, especially in Berlin, are places where you don't want to get filmed, you don't even allow pictures.
Right. So, and that people, I think, here, unlike in other countries and even other cities, in Berlin, it's sort of this socialist thing where the bartender, even the bathroom person, could DJ afterwards. There's everybody, it works together to create this atmosphere, and everybody knows that here. And the audience and certain characters that come, or also the people that work there from all levels, play a role. That's my wife did this painting of all the runners in Kaderholzig also, and everybody that works there, because to sort of celebrate the fact that these people are just as involved as anybody else. And so it would be nice if we saw that again. We see that in Berlin, but if the world starts to be aware of, a DJ alone is not gonna, it's going to be harder to pull off.
Yeah, for me,
an hour and a half of interesting.
The interesting question would be like, is there a way to translate this into a digital format, or is there not? And then, we don't even need to desperately search one, and we can just say it open that you can't replace it. I don't know it. Yeah. I'm just asking that question because that's for me also.
Well, we can't replace it, but then the question is, so what do we do now? Let's say, okay, we can't replace the club.
Yeah.
So what do? We just don't live stream? That's also not the answer.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
So we have to say, okay, we're working on it with a handicap, but then we have to figure out, okay, where do we go from here exactly? And what is it we're missing? What is it we're trying to replace? And And what did we have too much of? That's the other thing that I'm trying to say is like, where was our whole scene going? What direction that this could correct? Like we could be like, oh, there was a lot of people, you know, like I said, I don't want to get down on anybody. And I'm not thinking of anybody specifically. I just mean there are more and more DJs, more and more clubs, more and more people trying to cash in. I mean, there's this whirlwind of the magic that is DJing, and then this whirlwind of the money, and they need each other. Everybody can't work for free. They need the money. And, you know, and without that magic, that there's no money to invest. But at the same time, it seemed like the money was getting the upper hand for a while in the last couple of years. And yet there's not enough of it, you know. So everybody's sort of starving and hustling and trying to become celebrity and everything. This, I think the word was clicktivism or something. You know, it's about clicks. It's about clicks. It's not about that moment. Yeah. And so, you know, it's easy to just say, oh, we should just get back to that moment. But maybe, you know, you could, at the end of the day, we'll be able to sort of redirect things a little bit more positively to...
I hope so. I think, honestly, I don't know if it might not... Because, like you said, the second wave is going to be the economic consequences.
Yeah, and then who can afford to go clubbing?
Right, who can afford... Yeah, I mean, that's even my second thought. The first thought is who can afford to still open up a club or to still keep running. And then the second thing is how can people have money to go clubbing and not only the, like, you know, people who just can buy, like... their experience.
We don't even know everything, so it's going to change. I was just on my street. I was talking to one of the grocer there, and he said so many shops have already closed and like pulled up their tent spikes. They're gone, and how fast are they going to be replaced by new
and who's coming?
Shops and what kind of shops? We don't know.
Yeah. That's the situation. And for I mean, the interesting thing is if the crisis does offer us any kind of new opportunities or gives us like the moment to reconsider things, like you did put it. So for me, how can I say this, like the one of my main thoughts is what could we do differently, and how sustainable, I think that's one point that you brought up before that you wanted to bring up, how sustainable was the way that we were doing it.
Environmentally as well. That's something that could also
economically, in all realms.
Right.
And I don't think that we should give ourselves an easy answer there because, like you put it, even without the corona crisis, there were things that were getting out of hand.
Things were getting out of hand.
There was a bubble. I think we can...
The bubble was starting to burst as just before this happened, I feel like. And there was a lot of people up in the air questioning, how is this going to... It's getting more and more commercial. There's more and more travel. I mean, you know, I love traveling as a DJ. And, you know, that's one of my favorite things is to be able to see the world. But, yeah, I'm flying around. What kind of carbon footprint do I have? And it's not just me. It's like Berlin, you know, I mean... All these clubs have people, these EasyJet crowd, EasyJet culture, are flying around Europe for 50 euros to come, you know, to come and rave.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot. I know there's a lot of my friends on Facebook right now who've been environmentalists. They're like, "No shit, Sherlock, you just kept picking these out now." Obviously, what I'm saying is, all of us generally coming to that awareness and going, "Hey, okay, there are some more things, positive things to get out of this."
Yeah.
Like maybe getting back more to local scene. Not dancing, but appreciating, first of all, alle ziehen am gleichen Strang. Everybody's involved in this, including the runners, including the barmen, maybe like evening out the pay, or I don't want to get paid less, so I feel weird saying this, you know, but not just the DJs, but also the producers and also everybody that's working at the club, everybody that pulls together to make the party happen should kind of be more appreciated. And then also in a more local sense, like not letting, you know, not cashing in, buying into this whole Instagram thing of, I need to be in Fiji at this rave kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing for me of the crisis, like a key takeaway for it, and it's not for me, it's like for everyone, is the question of systematic, or how did you say that, systemrelevance, systematic relevance,
okay,
say it that like this, is that, I mean, all of a sudden we are in a situation where the grocery clerk
is way more important,
is too big to fail, you know?
And these essential guys who I think people in society look down on a bit, are suddenly where you're like, oh, they're the important guys. We're fucking just a bunch of losers, just talking shit about how great everything is, or But on the other hand, wait, I'm gonna be careful because it's easy right now to talk down culture and the cultural institutions like Qatar or wherever. Yeah. You're like, hey, that's so unimportant right now. People are dying and people are working really hard to keep them alive. Yeah. We need the groceries. Yeah. And it's easy because I think that happened a long time ago in America. That's why America has so little support for the arts, because they've gone through crises where they bought into that. They go, oh, we don't need culture. And the fact that Berlin right now is spending millions and millions of dollars to support solo, freelancers, including many creative people, is really important and amazing. And I think it's important to keep that into perspective, like you were saying.
Yeah, this is something I really want to focus more. So I think, for me, this really rare situation, and I think for a lot of people, I can probably even include you, this is the first time that we feel like having some kind of like a global community of fate, because we're all in this at the very same time together.
Yeah.
And this is a very new moment, a very new thing. Like it feels like history in the making. Like at least for me,
that's one of the reasons why too. You're right. We're all totally. Wow.
And what it shows is what I wanted to say with like the question of like professions all of a sudden becoming really relevant, whereas others are not or don't seem to be. I think what it should, a takeaway that it should have for us is that we see how much we're depending on one another, that you have your nice fancy consultant job, but you need someone who's fucking driving you there. You need someone who's driving the subway. You need someone to, serve you the food and clean your apartment or whatever. And it's not like you can't look down on them and on each other. And that, like, if you take that to the subculture, club scene, or whatever you name it, that this is exactly what you mean. Like,
why do we need culture? Yeah. Why do we need culture? Right now we're looking at it going, that was fun, and it was a magical, mystical experience for me. My whole life is all about DJing and the club scene. But please help me answer the question, because I think we do. Why do we need club culture in the world?
I mean, you could ask the question that we already had on the table was, has it got a relevancy for the system? And you could easily say, no, it hasn't, because it doesn't feed me in a way that, it's not the highest priority right now. And of course, it's also pretty easy to say, wait, man, there's people out there suffering and dying, even without Corona, by the way. Let's not forget about this. But then it's pretty easy to just wipe that out of your view. But still, I think, let's get back to the consultant. What is he doing when he's 14 days in quarantine? He needs the books, and he needs the person who's writing the book. He needs the DJ who's delivering the sound. You need culture, because this is, I think, a key thing of our human existence and of being a social being and connecting with one another. And once I really think that everyone has it. That's the funny thing. Like the other day, a journalist asked me for an interview. It's like, yeah, how could I explain the relevancy of of a nightclub in Berlin to a Bavarian grandpa, who has been in Landwirtschaft all his life? And I was like, yeah, he's also going to that Bavarian pub at night to meet his friends, and or he's going to church, and we all need the social event that connects us, and this is culture. I think it has a lot of it. Also, it also depends on how if you have a very hierarchische idea of what culture is, then it's.
And I think there's an invisible web that you have to really. It's not mentioned, but all the separate cultures are really strung together, and they're meeting points for each other. So fashion meets at the club. Sure. The club is influenced by fashion, is influenced by the music, memes, radio, whatever, theater. and each of those things influence us in our entirety, in all of our existence. So if you pick any one thing, it's really not a fair question of me to say, like, what is the reason for this club? Because this club is where all these other people meet, and they get together ideas, which also, the influence. I mean, it's like ripples of influence. So I'm just saying that culture it's hard to you can't pinpoint one part of culture and say this is good, this isn't, this needs to be, this doesn't need to be. But without
who would judge about it? I mean,
like what I said, at this moment when we're all of a sudden we're like, this doesn't seem important compared to people surviving and eating groceries and feeding their kids and staying healthy. It doesn't seem that important. And maybe it's not important for a couple of weeks, but it's very important later. And not just because of like this idea, you go to the theater and you learn something or you feel an emotion, but really because of this interconnectivity of all of these cultures. The big culture, really influences us on every level of our existence.
This is the point where I want to make the Spendenaufruf, by the way, really important. And for me, one thing that I really find extraordinary of how the club scene and the cultural scene in Berlin is dealing with the situation, especially United We Stream, is that we all, or that there seems to be like the common idea of making solidarity a bigger thing than just among the clubs. Or just among DJs or whatever you name it. It's bigger than that. And we should not forget in these days to look at the problems that we had before and that are systematic, that are structural. And therefore, I want to ask anybody who can or who wants and can to donate to the Zivile Seenotrettung tonight. My man Ludwig is going to post the link in the social media.
This is about refugees.
It's
in
about
boats.
it's about rescuing lives in the Mediterranean Sea, and these people out there are really saving lives, and they are saving our fucking Western and European values out there. So
well said.
Let's do this all together.
Here.
And I also need a little break because I have to run, and give me another track that we can play right now.
Okay. I wish I could see the tracks.
You can.
Sure. Because I can't remember. I just want to play these tracks I've been doing lately.
Just tell me which one. I have my own technical problems that
this original edit. This is a track that's unreleased. The last one, unreleased track of mine.
Yeah.
I played all the instruments on it and sang and little ditty. Little ditty. And after that, there's a remix that Thomas Freudenthal just finished, or it's not finished at all. He just finished it for the show tonight. That I want to play, not maybe right after, but that as the next track, so you can hear that's the same vocals but completely different. It's amazing what he did with it, and it's kind of a snippet, like a 5-minute snippet of the same song. The remix, obviously. I'm explaining what a remix is. Okay. Just wake up and remember that it's all a dream, and go back to sleep and pretend to forget. But know this, it doesn't take more than one eye to cry, one life to die, one question why, two little flaps to fly away. So hush, little baby, you have all the time in the world to start saying the word, to spread your wings and take to the sky. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Chris, and everybody. I don't have a label for this track yet, so if you have a nice label, let's talk. And then there's a remix from Thomas Freudenthal, which I'll play for you. Should we play it just right after this, or no? We'll save it. We'll save it. Right. That was a new track of mine. And I got a message from Julie Tash, who also said, culture is essential to giving people a break. A space of when they're feeling stuck, a break from themselves. And that's, we were saying, what is culture for? I guess that's an important point. Escapism doesn't sound like a good word, but it's the idea that you don't have to constantly be yourself. Even though you were saying you never
reinvent
know
yourself,
who you are, but you get to immerse yourself in a movie or in a club or in a theater thing or a song.
I think there's this quote of Bob Dylan, be yourself, whoever that is, which is very simple but very great. And by the way, this is an aspect of the crisis that is very much not focused yet, but things that are stopping, that haven't stopped for ages, is Bob Dylan, man. He's been touring from 1988 straight, all of the time, never ending tour. Now he stopped. The first time he stopped.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. 88?
88.
That's ill.
Non-fucking stop.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Good. I guess that's good.
You said that, but yeah.
But yeah, so culture allows us not only to escape our realities, but be inspired by stories or of others, and see others in a moment, either someone telling their story in like a rock band, or in a club, just seeing the beauty of someone being truly happy and letting go, and those things can really say, hey, I want to do that. I want to be like that. I want to have that moment of completely not worrying about anything. Why don't I have that more often in my life?
Yeah, and I think that's like, that brings us back to how I would put it is the question of whether culture and if you see it more local, maybe the Berlin club culture that now needs to be subsidized to get through this. Because I think most people are aware, but I'm still saying it. We're in a situation where you you cannot make any revenue by law. You're just not allowed to. So your whole business model is gone. But at the same time, you have all of your fixed costs that you need to pay every month. Yep. So that means for most of the places here, we're talking about like a time range of maybe 2 weeks. And for the bigger ones that exist out there, maybe it's 3, it might be 4 weeks, but then they're gone. And I think what a lot of people don't seem to recognize, or what is not being discussed very much, is that there is no chance for them to get back in this situation that Berlin is now, because it's another city. We're not in the early 90s where you just find empty spaces all over Berlin and you get like a 20-year rent contract, no one cares, and you go to the Behörde and they say, I don't fucking care, just pay taxes.
Right. And I don't want to say it's a rule that the clubs that are more influential and pushing the envelope more are making less money or not being able to save money because they're putting everything back into it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's a rule, but I think it's like a rule of thumb generally, like, a club that's secured itself for years in the future by playing only mainstream music is not in my interest. I don't see them as influential as people who are playing new musicians or new trying out new things. And almost always when culturally when people have to try out new things, they're pushing barriers that don't allow them to amass money. So things like this, like you said, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and then you were losing the best people.
Yeah, that's what's happening. That's what's happening.
Suggest.
Yeah. So let's. I mean, I think one thing we should definitely talk about is how the city of Berlin is helping the culture, because I think this is something. I don't know if it's truly unique, but it's definitely worth mentioning it.
I mean, yeah.
Because it is definitely something that other parts of the country and that maybe even the whole world can look up to, or at least see as some kind of a role model. I mean, it's also like, don't get me wrong, es ist nicht ohne Eigennutz, weil Berlin needs the economy that it has become. So here we see, like, you can't.
The Berlin culture is more important. The Berlin, especially like even the counterculture or the individual culture of the artists and musicians, DJs is more important than, say, I don't know, Stuttgart or something.
Yeah, of course. I mean, here it's a backbone of our economy. Yeah. Like, if you, that's just it. It's a fact.
It's amazing that a government could be aware of that and quickly do something about it, like this IBB thing where they gave 5,000 euros to pretty much anybody that asked that didn't have, that was like either a small business.
It was like self-employed
or small business.
Yeah. Creative jobs.
And I don't know how they're going to control it later, but I know hundreds of thousands of people got in line, and so far they're just paid within a week. Everybody had the money in their bank.
Yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, I wouldn't have thought it would happen. I'm like a big. I like criticizing a lot, and I do criticize like Berlin politics a lot. But that is, it's truly amazing.
It is amazing, and you could say what 5,000 euros is worth in Berlin, unlike say like $1,200, what Trump was talking about for all of America. Yeah. $1,200 in San Francisco doesn't even pay the rent for 1 month. And then in Oklahoma or something, that's all you need for 3 months. So it's not the same as saying. Yeah. 5,000 euros in Berlin should cover you for a couple months, 3 months.
Yeah, usually, yeah. And so, I mean, this is for me definitely like a takeaway to deal with those situations and to see what it means when a government, when a state, when a society sees culture as a common good and not as something that is, yeah, we need money now.
Well, so, like I said, America had that 100 years ago. I don't remember the details, but I remember hearing about the amount of money that America spends per year on the arts, and that it used to be quite high, and then it was it went down during the Great Depression or something, and then it didn't get back up. And I think that is a danger, to not appreciate the necessity of culture that Berlin is doing right now.
But this is a general danger, by the way. I mean, America, I think, is the negative role model here and there, but
it wasn't always like that. As I'm trying to say, it came from something. It was a crisis that caused it.
Yeah, it's a crisis, but then at the same time, it's a political decision to not get back to the way it was before,
or cultural. I don't know. Political or cultural, because of the democracy. People were just like, hey, wait, we don't
decide
need
between
that.
We're
going to get into political science.
Why not? I mean, come on.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So speaking of which, you as a born and raised, am I right? New Yorker? I mean, born in the Bronx?
Born, not really raised.
Not born and not really raised.
Yeah.
But I mean, are you looking a lot over the big ocean? I mean, how do you feel when you see the situation in New York? Today my brother sent me a picture of an improvised tent hospital in Central Park, which really, I don't know, that was like the moment when it really struck me, because I know the city very well. We can maybe talk about the connection that we have to New York in a couple of minutes.
That kind of is part of the answer to the question. I mean, my family is in America. They're spread all around. I moved my whole life. I moved from New York. My dad's like a real New Yorker. My brother has lived in New York now for years. He's there now. And my connection before was really more to like Seattle and California. And I've gotten a much stronger connection to New York through you guys, from taking me year for year to the Jans Weit Draußen, JWD, which is with Richard, with the Zero community. As we've been doing that for like 5 years now.
Wait, let me think back. I think the first year was 2016. So what are we having?
2020. So
16, 17, 18, 19. So we have 4.
It would have been, or could be, it hopefully will be the 5th. In October, we'll hopefully be through this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that reconnected me with New York City a lot. Because it was family really before, and I got to kind of show you guys around because I did know some things about the city. So, and I was like, hey,
everyone should be aware, if you're ever in New York, just text Jake, and no matter in which part of the city you are, you can be lost in like deep down in Queens, and he knows the nicest restaurant around.
I appreciate that, but it's all Google. It's all Google. Real New Yorkers. I got my cousins. My cousin Isaac, who's also a house producer, lives in New York, and I think he knows the real pizza joints. But yeah, I got my cousins there, Rua, and I mean, like I said, it's been really nice to reconnect to New York and the scene there. And I'm glad that there's a burgeoning scene happening now. It's really been difficult for them for a long time, and I think that because of Trump and how incompetently he's handled this whole thing. I mean, it's just amazing to watch.
It's great.
Okay, so. Not everybody. I don't know if I like Merkel or all of her policies, but I did like the way she got up on the TV and said, "Hey, everybody, chill. We got to be adult about this." Whereas this guy has been saying all this stuff, and then he has to have professionals come in like right after the press meeting and go, "Don't listen to anything you just said. That's all a lie."
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "Oh, okay." Not like, "Wait, why did he say? Who was letting him talk? Why does he still have a microphone?"
Yeah. Well, you know that his Umfragewerte, I just heard it. It's better than ever.
Right,
but
because
then
people think, oh, he's taking care.
Yeah, but then I thought like maybe this is something that always happens in like the in the midst of the crisis.
Sure.
That people want stability.
Presidents are popular.
Right. But then I still think, man, guys, at one point you have to notice this guy. I think when you had, I just read that today. I think that when there were about 100 of confirmed coronavirus cases, he said it's peak, and we're going to go through this. And
then later he said I knew it was a pandemic before anybody else did. He was like, I said, using the word pandemic before anybody else. Yeah, he's like constantly rewriting history. We know that about him, but you have to understand, people who are afraid see the daddy in him, and then like, "Daddy, take care of it," and he's got this confidence. It's like, I take it, that people want. So
yeah. Also, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't want to, I definitely not have this perspective of looking down on America and being like, yeah, Europe is so much superior, or Germany, and we're all better, because we're definitely not. And they're like, one thing that coming to New York constantly each year for around a month is that I really I understood the country, the people, and started to admire a lot of things, and understood how much the culture has also shaped my life. So I'm not having. Oh yeah, you. I'm not having.
It was great following your, to see New York through your eyes when you were, discovering it when you were there for so long.
Yeah, maybe. Sorry,
I just wanted to put out like your photos and stuff. I mean, I saw New York through new eyes. So.
Nice. So let me just give people an idea of what we're doing, because I think some people don't know it. So I think it was when the first time I went to New York was in 2013, early 2013. It was like my childhood dream to go there, definitely, because that's where all of the music is coming from that I was growing up with, and the movies that I've been watching. So I went there and got to know Richard, and it was kind of like love at first sight. And then he was one of the few promoters in New York City, as far as I see this, who was booking Berlin like underground DJs before anyone was starting to do it. And also he believed in like young talents, evolving talents before a lot of other people did. And so we became friends, and then at one night we just had a couple of beers and we thought, yeah, why shouldn't we like have a Carter and Zero, which is his label, why shouldn't we co-produce and have the Carter crew come over to New York? And
which, if I may interrupt, is very special, because the Carter people are always very, very careful about who they collaborate with, because they don't want to pimp out the brand and just go, oh, that's a Carter party. They have to all show up. They have to show up and and really bring the spirit. So
yeah. I mean,
it doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't happen often. And I think the main reason why it happened was that we found with Richard, we found someone who was absolutely fascinated by the idea of not just like doing the DJ showcase, like bringing the DJs and having like the easy, the easy popularity you might gain with it, but bringing the people who really run the club.
Which brings us full circle to what we were talking about.
Absolutely.
Not
like
just
bringing the light guys, bringing the people who are standing at the fucking door.
Exactly.
And that's that's where it gets interesting, but that's where it also gets complicated, because seeing it now, I'm like, yeah, fuck, we were like 25 people flying over there. Yeah. Like, that's also not good, So
you mean environmentally,
I also feel guilty in a way. And of course, you also ask yourself, is this sustainable? Like,
yeah.
So I just wanted to tell the story of the JWD, like how we called it. So this is the event series that we're doing.
JWD stands for Ganz weit draußen, which is like a Berliner accent way of saying way out.
Way the fuck out.
Way the fuck out there.
Yeah. So this collaboration is going now for 5 years, and we're hoping to be able to do the next event together in October. And let's keep on talking about the situation in the US for a little bit. What's your
really hard to judge, right? It's really hard to say what's going to happen. I mean,
super hard to judge. But what's your thought about it? Like, do you think Trump will survive this?
You mean, will he be reelected?
Yeah, reelected, or, I mean, at one point, I mean, come on.
You think he's going to get coronavirus?
I don't know. Maybe he even has. I mean, who would confirm it?
Right.
You think he would confirm it?
Eventually, he'd be not there. I mean, the idea is that someone his age is not going to do well with it.
We don't know. Okay, but I mean, but still, I'm definitely not sure if. I think it's gonna hit America pretty bad. It already does, but it's probably going to be worse. And the only thing I hope is that democracy over there is strong enough to replace him for the good with something that is,
Trump, yeah. I have no idea what's going to happen with that. I don't know what's going to happen with their quarantining. And, I mean, Italy has a little bit more of a monoculture than America does. Germany has a bit more of a monoculture, a bit more. Obviously, there's lots of histories involved in every country, but there's a certain, maybe like a German stereotype or an Italian stereotype, and there's not really American. I mean, it's just so many different cultures. So how they react to self-quarantining or following the laws or going batshit crazy and over exaggerating the laws, and it's hard. It's really hard to say what's going to happen.
I heard that people start falling in love with Cuomo, or I don't know how to pronounce his name. The New York City mayor.
Okay.
That he's now like the man in charge.
Right.
Maybe we can ask Richard about this.
Okay. Here's an example of how crazy America is. So everybody's bored. They're in quarantine. Everybody's watching Tiger King, which is about this guy that ran he's in jail, and this crooked guy who ran a bunch of lions. And Kanye and Kim Kardashian are trying to get Trump to release this guy from jail.
Yeah,
so that's their priority right now. This is so Netflix makes a documentary about this one crazy redneck dude. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's watching it. He's become the number one priority, more important than, because people are sick of coronavirus, right? So there's this entertaining to watch this redneck, tattooed, gay, gun-toting Tiger King. But it's, like I said, so here people in Germany watch it and they joke about it and it's like, okay, but then let's get back to business. But in America, it's no, this is the most important thing. Like Kanye and Kim are like, we have to get him out of jail. Trump, we're pals. Help us out. I mean, yeah, it's a strange place.
Shit is real, as my friend Pascal would put it.
With a question mark at the end. Shit is real.
Yeah. Okay, let me play a track before we go and jump over to New York and try to give Richard a call to actually see how he's doing, what the perspective of someone who is there. And who is
that would make more sense.
And who is trying to we're idiots talking about shit that we have no idea of. Right. At least I am definitely.
Me too.
We'll see what he is saying, and I'm interested in his perspective. What the outcome could be especially for the nightlife in New York, because as far as I have seen it from my little tiny perspective from being there, spending a lot of time there, but just for the last 6-7 years.
They have it way harder than us. It's way harder.
It's a whole
It's way harder to run a club or even parties there. It's
right, but I think I had the feeling that things are
much more laws.
It's revitalizing. That was my feeling, even if the circumstances are crazy, like absolutely crazy. But still, I had the feeling that the scene is kind of like it's revitalizing under the hardest possible circumstances. But yeah, we'll see what he's gonna tell us about it. And for now, let me play a song by my good friend Chris Schwarzwälder again.
Yay, Chris.
And Chris and Janis Ritter.
Also a big fan.
Flowers Are Green.
tell you what it is. Mix the freshest aspericum that you can lay your fingers on. Lime, salt, culantro, red onion, and colinos, ginger juice, milk after the tide, and a little peach.
Alrighty, let's call Richard, Mr. Huben.
Are we both get to talk to him, or how does this work?
I have a FaceTime, and we're going to FaceTime him. Wait, let me...
And how is that going to get on the air?
I'm putting it on the microphone, hoping that people will hear him.
High tech.
Richard, pick up your fucking phone. We told you we would call you.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. Wait. Okay, so how do we do this? Richard, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just hope. Yeah, that's the way we do it. Okay, hi Richard.
Hi Richard.
Hey.
Richard, pick up your fucking phone.
Oh, there's like a 10-second delay.
Oh wow.
I don't know if this is gonna work.
Yeah, there's a delay, so I'm gonna have to pause what you guys are saying on the computer because that's different than what I'm seeing here. So yeah.
Okay. I just hope people can hear you, but let's try this. Tell us how you are and where you are right now.
Yeah, so, I'm pretty much still in a state of kind of shock and processing this whole thing that's going on. I mean, a completely unrecognizable world from even 2 weeks ago. I'm up in the Catskills, which are some mountains outside of New York City. We went up about 2 weeks ago because my girlfriend has like bad asthma and puts her at the high risk of, the pre-existing conditions that would, put her in high risk of needing a ventilator or dying from this. So we kind of got out of town. But yeah, that's where I am.
Oh, you're having beers? You're having beers?
Yeah, having a beer.
Okay, cheers. Cheers, Richie.
Cheers. Yeah, I gotta stop. While I'm watching the screen, I kept expecting to see myself live, but there's this strange delay by about, looks like 20 seconds, so I have to close the computer.
Yeah, close it. Sorry, internet, man, that's People have still not figured out how to do this right.
We have a recording. You can watch it later.
All right.
Okay, so here is what what we want to ask you is seeing the situation. Let me start more general. Seeing the general situation of how it affects the United States, how it affects New York City in particular, as far as I see it, like it's one of the hotspots of the crisis right now. What do you think it will? Like, do you think the city can cope with it, and how, and what will which effects will it have, or what's your biggest fear, and what do you think could be like potentially good about it? And then especially seeing it as someone who is a promoter for events in off locations, do you think the scene is affected long term or short term, and what do you think could potentially happen to the nightlife?
Okay, yeah. It's an easy series of questions. So, we're definitely at the front lines. New York City is definitely at the front lines of everything that's happening. I'm a bad shelter-in-place person. I went out on Sunday through the city and took some photos just because I wanted to see what it was like to have just a ghost town. And you can imagine sidewalks that you can't even walk on. Because they're so crowded with people, just completely empty. A couple of guys on delivery bikes, and then the sounds, this ubiquitous sound of ambulances in the distance. And I actually learned on that day that the ambulance activity was the same on September 11th as that day. So, you can imagine, just what that means for the city and the impact and all that.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time, but, not to make light of the situation, but, New York, we're always kind of ahead of everyone else in America. So, what we're experiencing now, the rest of America will be experiencing in, a couple, hopefully not, hopefully all these things work, but, we definitely get the sense that, we're experiencing things in real time that the rest of the people are watching on TV, that it's not quite as real for them yet as it is for us. When this thing started a week ago, if we would have been doing this last week, I would have been like, well, I think, if in the music industry, everyone had to spend this week at home. We're all doing this kind of hunkering down. We're, updating our Facebook. We're strengthening our thumbs by scrolling through the social media. When this thing gets over, everyone's going to be excited. It's all going to bounce back. But something about the severity of the situation now, it leads me to think that there's going to be more lasting ramifications. 1 week to the next, I now think that if the ban were lifted tomorrow in a safe way, that, people would still be scared, and there's still going to be these impacts. And, how that, translates into all the businesses, not just music, but, obviously those with small businesses, those living paycheck to paycheck, which are the majority of culture, the majority of restaurants, the majority of entertainment or things where people come together, all, extremely impacted by this. I don't want to say that I'm one of the fortunate ones, because I'm definitely not fortunate. I had a large event planned, basically the largest one of the year, on April 4th, and I kind of lost basically everything for that, which is just years and years of rolled over, income and building a brand kind of all wiped out in one go, because I had spent the money for the event, and one day to the next it can't happen, and no one's refunding and no one's rolling things over. That's just the nature of the business. But I do consider myself one of the lucky ones, because when you look at the other clubs that have the fixed clubs that are in place, the monthly rents are just so high, and it's hard to really fathom how much everyone's paying, but it's just insane compared to, I think other places in America and certainly around the world, which is just, it's one of the natures of doing business in New York. It's a very expensive city, and we all want to make it happen. But, as I heard you guys talking earlier, the length of time that this goes on, people that were sure that they could weather the storm and come out stronger, they don't know now. And, if it lasts until June or longer, people just don't have savings in place. They don't have credit card room in place. the loans are hard to get for small businesses, even though with the stimulus package they passed, no one's really knowing if this is actually going to shake down or if it's going to work. So it's a time of like a lot of uncertainty. I have had a lot of phone calls. Some of the nice things is I know New York has this brand of being this kind of hyper-competitive place. It's, the sort of global capital of capitalism and competition and all of this. But I've definitely seen a lot of camaraderie between people because in these, situations, we all realize we're all in the same boat and we're actually all in the same industry and we're all trying to do the same thing. So in that, it's kind of nice to have this shared thing. There have been talks about people coming together. We want to do stuff. It's just so hard being at the epicenter of where this tragedy is. This sort of feeling of like hopelessness and a feeling of also just being trapped and also just not knowing right now. So I feel like as we pass what they're predicting to be the peak, I see there be more collaborations. And, as the quarantine goes on and on, the shelter in place goes on and on, people are going to get more comfortable with putting themselves out there culturally and teaming up and doing things. But I think right now everyone's kind of trying, but in terms of collaboration, I think it's kind of too soon for us because, unlike something like September 11th where it was, over and I don't know the exact time, but it was basically one day of one very, very sad and intense day. With this, we don't know how long this is going to go, and it's getting worse by the day, and it's dragging out. So there's just so much uncertainty. Anyway, but on a bright note, it's one thing I don't feel that there's social distancing. I think that there's physical distancing, but I think socially everyone's kind of getting tighter together.
That's nice.
And
it's distant socializing, Richard.
Distant socializing, yeah. But everyone's kind of looking out for each other and all that. And, I found it really inspiring what you guys did in Berlin, where everyone came together and did these live streams and this kind of, and all the things that are doing in this collaborative spirit. And I hope that New York will be able to do something like that soon. But like I said, everyone's still kind of being on the front lines in this intense way that it is. It's adding an extra element that we're all dealing with. And I personally am dealing with. So, yeah. Anyway, that's kind of the thing.
You have a question? No. Okay. All right. I don't know where I have to talk to both my microphone and the...
Is that working? I can hold it for you.
No, don't worry. It works, kind of. Thank you, Richard. That was quite an...
Thanks, Richard. That was great.
Intense, way of describing the situation.
And I appreciate what you said about New Yorkers. They're tough, but when the going gets tough, they really pull together.
Yeah, that's great. That's also for me. That's nice to hear. And it's... Ich sag's mal auf Deutsch, weil das ist so ein fuck, aber Richard versteht mich nicht auf Deutsch. Aber ich sag's doch auf Englisch. Sorry. I'm going to say this in English though. Sorry. The moment when you said like hearing the emergency sirens like from far distance, that really struck me a lot because that's I know the sound and the sound when you're in Manhattan, like walking the streets and what it sounds like, and I can imagine what it must be, like what the sound must be when there's literally nothing on the streets but these sirens. It's scary. It's definitely scary. So yeah, we are. Yeah, thank you, Richard. For now,
thanks, Richard.
Let's talk longer later, and all the best for you. Best for Anastasia. And,
yes, lots of love to Anastasia. Stay healthy, stay safe.
Stay healthy, stay safe. Flatten that curve.
Sorry if I was it was too heavy, but
no, it's perfect.
Situation.
Oh no, it is, man. It's real.
It's real, yeah. But I know that I just want to say before I get kicked off that I think it's really magical in a way that the whole world has to stop and pause and think about things. And I love that the whole world is doing it together. And there's just this sense that things can be done that otherwise we're always we were told impossible, what the governments are doing, the quick stimulus action, just
Yes.
the fact that we all have to pause and think. And I think that, there can be a lot, and there probably will be a lot of changes and positive things that come from this. And I'm looking forward to seeing what those things are.
Nice. Well said. Okay. Thank you, Richard. All right. So what's next, Jake? Play a track? Richard, should we play a track?
Yeah, play a track.
All right. We're going to play that track, the Jake track. Bye-bye. Thank you, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
Yeah, bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye, Richard.
All the best.
That's pretty great. It's nice to hear. First-hand reporting from New York City. Somebody very involved in the scene, and also, some real insights there.
Yeah. Tell me which track.
Let's play the remix, the Thomas Freudenthal remix of the track that I played earlier, which is my unreleased track. It's also
the Vakari.
Yeah.
And then the Freudenthal remix.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I thought it's very interesting how he took the tonality in my vocals and came up with a completely different melodic scheme, and yet it fits in there just without it. He hadn't even changed it. He just sort of found it in there, and then wrote a totally new melody line. It's great in like 2 days.
hole. Yeah, there it is. I got you. Yeah. Did you switch on your microphone?
It's on now.
Oh, yeah. Now we're talking.
So, yeah, that was the unfinished remix from Thomas Freudenthal from the track that I played before. And I'll be looking for a label for that soon. I don't know what the whole situation is with labels right now. If it's a good time or a bad time, we'll see. Yeah.
All right. So one thing I wanted to talk about after all of the heavy shit that we have been through, and that is also important to talk about and to take note of and to not deny. What's the everyday struggle of Jake being around in Corona times? Because speaking for me, I'm a very neurotic person. The type of guy who's, like running back from the train station because he thinks the gas oven might still be switched on.
Okay.
So that doesn't make it easier.
How's Corona been treating you?
Yeah. So how is it? What's your?
I just wish that there was some kind of consensus about what the right distance is, and people would take it all kind of similarly serious, because it's crazy how
they don't.
You have people who are overreacting, clearly, from my opinion, overreacting, and then people who are underreacting, and like running literally into you, and you're like, that's why there's so much room on the Berlin streets. Why do you need to actually make body contact with me? That's weird. It's almost like they're challenging you, and the other people who are, you get too close and they freak out. One thing, what's it called? Netto started a thing recently. I think it's for the social distancing.
It's German grocery.
Netto, German grocery. The Einkaufswagen, the grocery cart. It says every shopper has to have a grocery cart, no matter how much they buy. Now it's a new thing. And the thing is, the German system is you don't just get a grocery cart. You have to put €1 into the grocery cart.
Yeah, you can.
So you have to take out your money.
You can also use a chip if you're a very wise grocery.
Right. So you take out your Corona chip or your Corona euro. You put it in the thing. You fondle it. You rub your hand along the bar. And then you go out into the grocery store, and then you put it back. And if you don't have the euro or the chip, you have to go to the cashier and say, "Give me some of your Corona money." So, I think the idea is to help to prevent the spread of Corona, but I don't see it working. By maybe distancing yourself with the cart. But I see it backfiring, and I think it's funny that there's people like it's a chain, and they just decided we need to make rules because everybody wants rules. So this is our new rule, and it seems kind of arbitrary.
Yeah, I mean, rules. It's security, man.
Right.
Rule is security. So speaking about me, I have the thing going when I'm in a grocery, and so in Germany right now, there's at least in the shops in Berlin that I'm going to, what they're trying to do is not letting too many people in at once, and many of them have a security out in front, so you're only allowed to go in there.
What neighborhood is this?
It's Kreuzberg.
Okay, because Prenzlauer looks very different, but go on.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, so they just let say amount of 50 people altogether, yeah? And then, but still at some points, there is no other way than being very distant, because you want to pass that, you want to see pasta and someone is standing right in front of it, but then you have to grab it. And then what I'm doing is I'm holding my breath,
They don't know that.
No, they don't know it.
Okay.
It's my thing going on.
Right. So
I see, and I have this tick, since my childhood, actually, that I'm I'm focusing on, say, a spot okay, this is the lentils back there, and I have to hold my breath till I reach the lentils.
So we're going on bordering OCD here.
Oh yeah, maybe, I don't know, but it's serious shit going on, and it's not making it any better, man.
Okay, yeah, for sure. This is definitely a good time for neurotics and OCDs to be obsessing about amount of seconds or an amount of meters and amount of man,
it's real. All right.
It's real.
So I mean, I think I don't want to overstretch the attention of people.
No, I do have one more song to play, but
we have one more song.
There was
to
some
play.
famous philosopher, and I wish I could remember who it was right now, but he did say I remember that every day I get up now, it's like the most important choice we make is to be in a good mood.
Yeah, I probably know a version of it.
Yeah, and I always like have to remind myself of that in the morning because I could wake up pretty grumpy around these days, you know, and then I go like, okay, but you know, attitude is partly what
I've seen you waking up very like hungover, but at the same time being the first one to serve bacon and like what was the name of like the Jewish cake that you served in New York? Like,
babka.
Babka, yeah. Yeah, man. Great.
I miss New York.
Yeah, okay.
So thanks. I don't know if we're going to end this soon, but I really appreciate you having me on and talking about these things.
Absolutely, thanks, man. All right. Yoncha just gave me a message. Don't stop, guys. Don't stop. Yeah.
Well, at least let's play another song, and if we
let's play another song.
So this is another. Go ahead and start it, and I'll.
That was Hard Hole, right?
Yeah. The working title.
You know the working titles always survive.
Survive. So. Yeah, this is a track we made just last week with Chameleon. That's Chris and Shauna, some of my favorite people in the whole world. And they gave me a track, and I sang some lyrics on it, and they said, oh, we love your vocals, but the track doesn't fit, so they made a whole new track for the vocals. And Chris just finished it this morning, so this is it. Okay, cool. Well, we have to keep taking more and more pee breaks as we drink beer. If we're not supposed to stop, you need to give us some new topics, all right? Send us topics. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to say? saying that I'm gonna quit, but you know I keep on doing it. There's a disconnect, it doesn't fit. Two voices in an argument, both on me and they are both legit. I'm talking, just not listening. I'm so nervous about fitting in. Consciousness is what we live in.
hole in my heart, and I'm trying to fill it up. There's a hole in my heart, and I'm trying to fill it up. There's a hole in my heart, and I'm trying to fill it up. You never get enough of what you don't really need. There's a
I just got a lovely message from my family, so I wanted to say hello to Enrica and Alaska and Tennessee who are listening now this whole time, so thank you guys. Oh, all right.
Uh-oh.
That's Chameleon. I hope you could hear me before. One thing I wanted to do is read this question that Julia Goslow wrote. She said, I have a question discussed with a lot of friends. Isn't it the time now to step back as artists and beg for money and support the scientists who are searching for a cure? I don't know specifically about asking for money for scientists, but I do think it's important that the artists. I mean, at this moment where we're saying we are having problems, and we're discussing whether we should live stream or not, and how we're getting our income. Yeah, it's important to put things into perspective, and I think we did talk about that earlier. I'm not sure if you heard that, but I mean that's one of the reasons why you brought up the donation to the what do they call it in English? The
Civil Sea Rescue. I think
Civil Sea Rescue. Our problems are minuscule in compared to other people's problems right now, and also there are people working in the health industry trying to save lives, and they're working tirelessly and much more harder than we ever have in our entire lives, and scientists should be getting paid way more than they ever have. I mean, there was there was some meme about how we need to ask Ronaldo and Messi to take care of the problems because we're paying them millions of euros. So they're obviously the ones that are worth the most to us in society.
A lot of very precise memes.
Julie, I agree with you. We definitely should be focusing on the things that are most important. On the other hand, we do have all the time in the world, and we can also talk about our own role in these things and our problems that we have too, without it diminishing that in any way.
Yeah, I think so too. It doesn't have to be a Widerspruch, right? Yeah, all right. So, and then we got another. So Richard just sent me a text because he was feeling like he kind of shocked us a little bit with his report, which I mean, I was aware it would be shocking, and I think you did just well, Richard. Don't worry. That's how it is. But at the same time, he wrote me, I forgot to say about how when this thing is over, coming together will be much more meaningful to everyone. And I can only support this thought. I mean, I think that's one thing that a lot of people are looking forward to. Like, I mean, imagine the first fucking moment when you can social, what's the opposite of distancing? Social face bashing.
Social face bashing.
All right. When we can get back to social face bashing again with a baseline.
With
playing.
A baseline, exactly. We need a baseline. We need some serious body contact.
Yeah, man, that will be it. I mean,
slam parties.
Body slam parties. So what else have we got here? So we got my friend Gunny. Our good friend Gunny, who's also a Ladenleiter in Kater Blau.
Tim
Gunny. Old school Tim. Now we can say it. He's just
my favorite Ladenleiter. Now a couple of beers later, Ladenleiter.
Now my
favorite Ladenleiter.
It's getting real here. Your favorite Ladenleiter is Gunny? Yeah, I think he's my favorite Ladenleiter too, but I don't say that too loud.
No, there's a history. I'll tell you.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
What does he have to say?
No, he just said like,
hi,
thank you guys, and nice to hear this, and thank you for the conversation.
I'm trying to read a little bit of people have been writing in the feed. If there's any other questions I can help with.
Can we help with questions? I think we should.
Jancha just said I take that one personally.
Oh,
there's a story behind it, Jancha. I will tell you. Okay. Favorite Ladenleiter is the perfect way to get in trouble, no matter what.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. All right, guys. I'm afraid we need to say goodbye.
Bye, guys. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you so much for listening, and
you gonna take us out with a track?
I'm going to take us out with a track.
Nice.
It's a track that I deeply admire, that means a lot to me, because it was like it was a very intense time of my life when this track was being played by friends of mine. I'm not even saying who made it, because people will know immediately.
Okay.
And it's just a very, for me, it's a very important track in my life and in my, the way that I'm like connected to Berlin, like going out and dancing. And people who know me know that I don't dance a lot lately, but this is definitely something like a track that I used to dance a lot to, and that really means something to me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Thanks a lot. And
Jake, thank you so much.
Thank you too, Kana. Thanks, Kana, and thank you all for listening. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to all the guys that back there in the other room that made the sound and video possible, and for bringing up the beers.
Don't forget the beers. I told them 2 days ago.
They did a great job.
But they did a great job. Yeah, you can't blame them on the beer question. And the beer question is an important question. I told them a lot of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Hannes and Ludi and the whole team who's doing the technical support and making all of this possible within fucking days. And I don't know if people know it, but we used to be people with a normal job.
Yeah. Well, in this format, I'm out of here, but apparently you're going to continue with this, and they're going to continue with this, and it's going to be a regular thing. I heard you guys are getting a camera. What's it called? The one of those steady cams. So next week, so they'll be able to perform concerts with a lot more.
You know more than I do.
Yeah, I heard it when I came in. So they're going to be things. They're going to be getting more technologically more advanced, and there's going to be a lot of streaming. Just the kind of stuff I was talking about. Like a live concert with steady cams around it and conversations and
that's exactly what we wanted.
Varied content, which is great. So
trying to show the whole range of cultural things that are going on
in Holzmarkt specifically. Yeah,
right.
Great.
All right, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Adios. Texted me. He just watched the last 5 minutes.
Oh, sweet.
And he said, ja, nur das mit dem Lieblingsladenleiter. Punkt, Punkt, Punkt.
Oh, man.
We really hit the nail on that one. Yeah, how can we?
Whoops.
What can we do? Hugo, I think we're gonna invite you for the next show.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's probably it. I think Hugo is the one.
Yeah,
could be. I don't know. Be prepared, Hugo.
Defend yourself.